Going up against Michigan State, it's going to be business as usual for the Nittany Lions. But let's get the perspective of both sides as we cross it over with Locked On Spartans to preview both teams.
You are Locked On Nittany Lions, your daily podcast on the Penn State Nittany Lions. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, Locked On Spartans listeners, and also Locked On Nittany Lions listeners. That's right, it is a crossover show, but before going any further, today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnCollege and use code LockedOnCollege for a first deposit match up to $100. It's daily fantasy sports made easy with PrizePicks. All right, for those that are over there in Happy Valley, hey, what's up? It's Matt Sheehan. For those that are in East Lansing, over there, Zach, Seyko, and Zach, ahead of Black Friday, ahead of the Thanksgiving season. How we doing, man? Are we doing okay over there?
I guess under the circumstances, right? Everything's falling apart for some people. For others, it is a little bit of a disappointment. And that's kind of the boat that I'm in, is that there was a full expectation that they were going to be a serious college football playoff contender. They were going to be one or the other of Ohio State and Michigan, and none of that came true. So it's kind of the same old song and dance here. But I also have to preface, right? I'm not trying to take a shot at your everydayer fan base, right? But it also could be like Michigan State over here, and it's not, or USC, and it's not.
Now that's tough because that's an $80 million buyout on Lincoln Riley, if I'm not mistaken. At least we have
Texas
the hope. Texas A&M. At least we have the hope of like a new start, fresh beginnings, and a coaching search that could be ending here the next few weeks. So this season has been terrible. I mean, don't say that you're taking a shot at us. That's just the fact of the matter that this has been rough. This has been really rough, but hey, better days are ahead here in East Lansing, hopefully. So, because that's kind of where I wanted to start this show, Zach, is asking, are either of us happy? Because, hey, over here in East Lansing, over there in Happy Valley, we're both coming off of wins here, but this isn't the season us Spartan fans wanted. And someone on Twitter once wrote, quote, "No one has mastered anything in life more than James Franklin has mastered the disappointing 10-win season." Is that fair or foul? Like, are we using the D word? Is it disappointment over there, even though you guys are on your way to a 10-win season again?
Well, the goalposts were shifted. I think that's just it. The expectations were there. I can't sit back and say, well, they were over the top, or they weren't realistic, or everybody was crazy for thinking that this Penn State team could take the next step. No, they did fall short. They did disappoint because the expectations were true. You see that the defense didn't totally reinvent itself, but it went from a defense that was okay, very good, very respectable, and can get the job done, to a truly playoff caliber elite defense under Manny Diaz. And we'll see if he sticks around. But the run defense, which was, I don't want to say abysmal, but when it went up against the likes of Michigan and Ohio State, they were able to get the job done more so, and then some, right?
Sure.
418 yards. But Manny Diaz took that run defense and made it his goal to completely overhaul it, or make it better anyway. And they went from maybe a mediocre, average at best, to top 5. They went from mediocre to top 5. If that doesn't talk about like elite coaching or what he is as a head coaching candidate, people are mistaken if they don't think he's a legitimate candidate for another Power 5 program. That's besides the point. But Penn State's defense was there. And then the offense, Sean Clifford turns the ball over, and Drew Aller's supposed to take. It wasn't, the question marks weren't about the defense. The defense held up its end of the bargain. It was the offense that became totally abysmal. Mike Yurcich wasn't supposed to be a slam dunk hire, but he was supposed to be a good hire. He was supposed to be that head coach in waiting. He just needed some more time. And Penn State was able to beat up on the bad teams, but when it came to the big ones, they couldn't get it done. And this was an interesting statistic. Against all the losing and all the games that Penn State lost with Mike Yurcich calling plays, Penn State averaged 12 points per game. 12 points per game. So, yes.
That's not going to get it done. Yeah, okay.
Matt, it's very disappointing over here because you had the 5-star quarterback. And he got to season. He got to sit and wait. You had the 5-star running back. You had other phenomenal talent, 2 NFL caliber tight ends, the best offensive line in the past decade. Wide receivers that you had some promise in Dante Cephas, but the wide receivers never materialized. Trey Wallace ends up getting hurt. But you should be able to overcome that. Penn State, for the most part, outside of Trey Wallace, did not lose any key contributors They did not.
Okay.
Everybody was healthy through a majority of the season. Sure, guys got bumps and bruises, but that's what I look at the roster. I'm like, man, everyone's intact, and you didn't make it into the conversation. Like, you're out. There's not even a chance. So it is a disappointment.
All right, I'm glad, because the person that tweeted that out was me. So I just wanted to make sure that we align here before I outed myself.
You're
like
justified.
That. But yeah, it's so weird too, especially on my end of the world here. Like, we're sitting at a smooth 4-win season right now. Save for a really nice miracle on Friday. But like, yeah, it's just, I can't help to notice. It's like, wow. And Franklin is there for a while, right? Like, didn't he re-up his contract very recently? I mean,
It's his 10th season.
Is the marriage still okay between like Penn State fans and James Franklin? Like, are you guys still all in on him, or is there a little bit of like, oh man, wish that contract was a little shorter? Which is a crazy question, because again, hey, 10 wins is great, but it gets stale after a while, maybe.
I mean, again, it could be worse. You could be Indiana, who gets the COVID season is their breakout year, right?
Yeah.
Or Northwestern saying that, well, we're content with 6-6. I understand, because Joe Paterno won a couple national titles. Those Penn State teams were very competitive. He was also there for how many years, right? James Franklin has only had, he's only had a decade to this point, and he also had to deal with those Bill O'Brien teams didn't make the college football, but hypothetically, I know it was still the BCS, but
right.
Bill O'Brien wasn't 10-2, 11-1. It was the sum of the parts. He was still 7-5, 8-4, and James Franklin was that to start. And then he broke through despite the scholarships and won a Big Ten title in 2016, and has taken them to multiple New Year's Six bowls and won those games as well.
Mm-hmm.
I've been doing some, back and forth. I'm trying to create some conversation on X Twitter that Penn State doesn't spend as much money and doesn't earn as much money to support the football program compared to Ohio State and Michigan. The difference between OSU and Penn State is $70 million in terms of total revenue. You can do a lot with your football program with that kind of money. And don't even get me started on the contributions. Ohio State is receiving $20 million more in contributions than Penn State. So that's NIL. That's and anything else that mostly related to NIL, but you get my point. So Penn State needs to acknowledge that right now it's a 10-2 program because it behaves like a 10-2 program, and that's just the fact of the matter. I'm sorry about that, but I think Penn State fans need to you have to accept that the marriage is stale between a lot of Penn State fans and James Franklin. As far as internally between Penn State, Pat Kraft, Neely Bendapudi, the president, and James Franklin, it seems like the relationship's better than ever.
Gotcha. And let's get more into the game here in a little bit, what's going to be taking place on Friday. But first, Zach, as you know, we got to pay some bills around here, and that starts with talking about LinkedIn jobs. Folks, these days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business, and you want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to go check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. And best of all, hey, even a schmuck like me can easily post a job on LinkedIn Jobs. So if I can do it, I know you guys can do it. And when you do so, add the purple hashtag hiring frame around your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you are hiring. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so that you can quickly prioritize who you would like to interview and hire. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. And like I said, for free. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions. You got that right, Buster. They apply. Also, need to talk people's ears off about Team Ticker. Now, me and Zach, we're in exclusive clubs. Spartan fans, Nittany Lions fans, we are in exclusive clubs because Team Ticker, the game-changing sign made right here in the US of A, baby. This is the greatest thing that you can include in your man cave, your basement, your sports bar, your kitchen, your bathroom, wherever you want to put this Team Ticker sign. And I just said exclusive club. Why is that? This is a new company, guys. There are not a lot of fan bases that have a Team Ticker sign available to purchase, but State fans, Nittany Lions fans, if for some reason you're a Cincinnati Bearcat fan listening to this, that's right, you're in part of our exclusive club as well. Yeah. You are in big luck right now because, hey, this is exclusive. It's new. And if you want to have the coolest looking setup in your house or your bar or your basement or your garage, teamticker.com. But don't just go there. and spend all your money. No. They want to save you some money too, because when you smash in promo code Locked On, that's all one word, Locked On, that's going to shave $50 off of your purchase. Again, gang, that is teamticker.com, promo code Locked On. Are they not the best signs in the world, Zach? Like they truly are. Like I've been getting rave reviews on my end of the world over here with what's behind me. But yeah, they're so cool.
I'll tell you what, I really like the design of yours with Sparty holding the sign itself. I mean, don't get me wrong, I think mine is gorgeous, but I think that's a neat feature that yours, and I think you can get both variations, the one with the Spartan helmet and then Sparty himself actually holding it up. So the team ticker signs, I mean, it's made me stay sharp to say like, when I have those frequent reminders, and fans can. I've had fans in my comments just say that's all I'm watching when I listen to your show, and then I'm just watching it go in the background. So I've had the same kind of feedback.
It's great. Like right behind me right now, like the weather forecast. Now, obviously for this Friday,
doesn't matter.
It's going to be in a dome. It's not going to matter. But hey, for the other 11 games, that was helpful information just to have on the team ticker sign here. So let's get into Friday's game here. And I'm sorry, I'm just peppering you with all the questions so far here, but this is a big storyline going into this one. Drew Aller. All right, we could talk about his play this season so far later on, but let's just talk about, is he going to play this Friday, because he exited your Saturday's game last week with an injury. Can we expect this kid to play on Friday, you think?
According to James Franklin, short and sweet, everything's going to be normal going into this game. We didn't get an indication. Was it concussion-like? Was it his shoulder? He left after he scrambled on the play and took a big hit from a Rutgers safety or a linebacker to his throwing shoulder, his right shoulder.
Okay.
So that's the understanding. I'm not a doctor. I won't pretend to be one, but I think it's his throwing arm. But he probably got a stinger. Penn State knew that. I think Penn State's in a position they want to see what Bo Pribula could do. So more or less, it was an excuse to protect Drew, but to also see what Bo can do.
Okay. Fair enough. And I guess we'll talk about the performance too, because look, we do a lot of predictions in our line of work, Zach. Like, and beforehand, I even stepped outside the Michigan State waters. I said, Penn State, watch out. I'm all in on Drew Aller. Drew Aller this, Drew Aller that. I bought into all the hype. I was sipping that Drew Aller Kool-Aid over here. What has happened? Is it entirely like on him? Is it for the offensive coordinator that you guys just recently fired? Or like what has been, so to speak, the problem so far for Drew Aller over there?
Yeah, and I'm eager to throw it back to you about the quarterback situation. I know Noah Kim's been banged up, but I really like Caton Hauser. So I feel like the similar situations here for both Hauser and Aller. I mean, Hauser's got the pedigree, the high school, strong high school background. Drew Aller, the same thing, 5-star. Both appeared at Elite 11 camps, right? So these guys are truly the best of the best in the country coming into their respective college football programs. For Drew Aller, I think there's a lot of things. It's not a matter of talent. If you want to look at what we can criticize about him personally, I would say it's his mental fortitude. It's his confidence, and that's going to shake your decision making. You're not going to trust yourself. The offensive coordinator, Mike Yurcich, former anyway, when in the biggest game of the year against Michigan, he decided to say, okay, my 5-star pocket quarterback, I'm going to use him as more of a running threat, a dual threat quarterback, than trust his arm. That's not acceptable. That's what gets you fired. And what's the point of bringing him in? You might as well have subbed in Bo Pribula in that case. That would have been a little more strategic if that's what you were going to do. So Drew Aller, I understand the emotion, the blood, sweat, and tears poured into these games, but it feels like that's kind of the default reaction here. Is I've said cried after Ohio State, cried after Michigan. Apparently he was in tears or very distraught on the sideline after he was taken out of the game. And I get that he wants to be in there. He wants to play. He wants to win. But you got to be stone cold, tough as nails if you're going to be the quarterback. You have to be a silent assassin. So this is just kind of a thing off the totally that this is a quality that you need. You can't be a bull in a china shop when you are a quarterback. You have to be as calm as you can be. And I think Drew Aller will work on that. He's 19. I know I've never been playing a Division I sports, but I cried when I was when I was a kid and things didn't go my way. I had some little league championships that I was involved in for baseball and stuff. I know somewhat what it feels like, but on this stage, I think that's the only thing that's holding Drew back is his confidence in his decision making, and you fix that in the offseason because the talent's all there.
Right on. I get it, Drew. I almost shed a tear after my recreational beach volleyball Division II
Right?
semifinal loss over the summer, and I'm a 31-year-old man, so I get it, man. But
yeah.
it's tough losing, especially when the stakes are high, like in those big games.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the quarterback situation at Michigan State is interesting as well because just like you said, Noah Kim, he started the year, but he's been banged up. He has not played for quite some time now. He's out the rest of the year. So now it falls on two young players, redshirt freshman Caden Hauser over here, who he has the full reins now because the other true freshman, Sam Levitt, out of the Pacific Northwest, he's played in 4 games so far this year, and he wants to keep that red shirt. By all means, that makes sense. Sam Levitt, really strong arm. He's actually led some nice touchdown drives in his short window of time here. But, hey, I want to save the eligibility. So now it's all Caden Hauser, who has been fine. I think I know that people are going to heavily disagree on that. Some people think that, all right, we're already ready to move on from him. Like I saw those 2 interceptions last Saturday. It should have maybe even been 2 more on top of that. And hey, even in his first start, he got away with about 5 drops interceptions against Rutgers, but he's also had some pretty good moments too, like that game-winning touchdown drive against Indiana last week. Now, sure, throwing the ball to your hulking tight end, Malik Carr, who actually wanted to try last game, like that's always a good strategy. But it's the little things like his pocket presence, moving in the pocket, taking 2 steps this way, 3 steps back, avoiding the sack. He showed a lot of poise there late in the game. And for a kid that's just a redshirt freshman, just like you're saying, Drew, I was only 19, like showing some, yes, you're a college kid, but you're also youthful as well. That's impressive to know this early on in his first full season, kind of under center here. So is there a lot to be desired? Sure, of course there is out of a former Elite 11 quarterback. But we're still young in his career, and you are seeing a few good things here. And if we could just do excuse radio over here, too. Yeah. I mean, Zach, you guys talked about being healthy for the most part this whole year. What's that like? I feel like if I get to the game early enough on Friday, they're going to ask me to play offensive guard in this game. Like, it is a rotating cast for the offensive line. For the receivers, I might be playing a little bit of slot receiver. We might have Sparty playing the X. He's got a lot of personnel that he's been dealing with change-wise throughout the last few weeks, too. So, in whole, it's been fine for Caden Hauser, I would say. Fine. So, I know it's a lame answer, a boring answer, but that's what I got.
The supporting cast isn't there for him. As a first-time starter, thrust into action when it was supposed to be Peyton Thorne, then it was supposed to be Noah Kim. So, he's not expecting to see the field, period. And then I look at the cast around him, and it's like, okay, well, how much can he do as a first-time starter when he was expecting to be third string?
Yeah, of course. And, hey, by the way, those 2 NFL receivers on last year's roster, and Jaden Reed and Keon Coleman, they're not going to be here anymore, too, just to throw that cherry on top. So it's been a season full of adversity here in East Lansing. I don't think I'm breaking any news to anyone with that, but poor Caden Hauser, man. It's it's a bummer, and it's kind of a bummer, too, because I don't want to be a Debbie Downer for, our Michigan State fans over here, but I was listening to your latest podcast. You said that you have a hard time believing this will even be competitive on Friday, and I got to say, I'm sorry, MSU Nation, but kind of have to agree with Zach here, just because, look, it's hard enough for Michigan State's offense to move the ball down the field. Yes, it was fun times against Indiana. Penn State's a little more different than Indiana. I think we're going to see more of like that Ohio State defense where, like, oh my God, if we cross the 40-yard line, like it should just count as a touchdown. So I don't know. It's just, he's got one more game that I don't even know where I'm going with this. I don't have a question. I'm just kind of spiraling over here, but man, it was fun last Saturday. It's going to be tough this Friday, I think. And you see it the same way. I think it's safe to say.
Yeah. Before we actually discuss any predictions, I just know you just got to, the 2 things that I look at when analyzing a game to start is, or I guess 4 overall categories, but 2 specifically, yards per rush attempt and yards per pass attempt, both offensively and defensively. So that's 4 breakdowns. And when Michigan State's defense is still pretty respectable, especially defending the run. Against the pass, which Penn State struggles with because Penn State doesn't get a lot of yards per pass attempt. Michigan State, I want to say is barely top 90 when it comes to that category, but Penn State offensively is also barely top 90. So those kind of things neutralize each other, and then Penn State's rushing attack hasn't been great, but when you have an elite defense, so here's the difference now. Penn State's average yards per carry allowed on rushing is 2.3. That's third best in the nation. And they were number one for a little bit of time until James Madison and UCLA have taken over here towards the end of the season. And then pass defense is still top 25. So that's what you're going up against. And then a redshirt freshman quarterback who will probably turn the ball over against a Penn State defense that leads the nation in sacks and pressures and everything else. That's the difference in this case.
I'm covering my face right now because, hey, behind Kane Hauser, like, look, Sam Levitt, redshirt, just like we said. Noah Kim, he's hurt. Behind him is walk-on senior quarterback Andrew Skofar. So if Kane Hauser gets dinged up early here, this could be a long Black Friday evening. But hey,
go shopping. Do some online shopping instead.
Do some online shopping. Enjoy the climate-controlled game if you're going to be in the stadium. It's not going to be 40 and rainy in Ford Field. Like, that's going to be nice. There's some things to look forward to. But yeah, we could talk predictions. And I also have a bet that I want to run by you too in this next segment as well. Sure. So, but I'll let you banter first about Prize Picks.
All right. Yeah, that's right. Another one of our sponsors on today's episode is Prize Picks, the largest independently owned daily fantasy sports platform in North America. They are the easiest and most exciting way to play DFS. It's just you against the numbers. Instead of battling thousands of other players, including the pros and the sharks, that's no fun. You pick more than or less than on a 2 to 6 player stat projection and watch those winnings roll in. If you have the skills, you can turn $10 into $250 with just a few taps. Prize Picks is real simple to play. You can make your picks and submit your entry in less than 60 seconds. Quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, like I said, and an enormous selection of players and stat types are what makes Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. And with the Prize Picks reboot policy, your entries stay in play even if one of your players goes down. They get hurt for NFL games, college football top 25 matchups. If you have a player who exits the game in the first half and does not return in the second, that player is then rebooted. How about that? They're rebooted. Prize Picks is the only daily fantasy sports platform with injury insurance. So now what do you got to do? You go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnCollege and use code LockedOnCollege for a first deposit match up to $100. prizepicks.com/LockedOnCollege with code LockedOnCollege for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy.
Nailed it. Look at you. Just
I've had a lot of practice. A lot of practice.
You. That's what I'm talking about. Way to go.
I think we've had tons of practice.
You got that right. Can I just get my bet out of the way, my bet idea out of the way right now? Because this is part ridiculous, part just financial advice right now. It's not a spread. It's not a side. It's a prop. If there are, and most likely there are more times than not on FanDuel, there are the anytime touchdown score props or first time touchdown scores or 2-time. I have my eye on Theo Johnson, tight end of Penn State. Now, why is that? Well, because MSU against the tight end, not really, any great shakes going on there, especially in pass coverage. But also, I'm falling in love with the storyline. This guy's from Windsor. That's just across the river from where this game's going to be played. So, hey, maybe James Franklin wants to get the, so to speak, hometown kid cooking early here. I think I'm going to wager a few dollars on Theo Johnson, anytime touchdown score, first time touchdown score, and maybe even like 2+ touchdowns. Is that silly season? Is there another skill position player I should be looking at a little more for Penn State, or am I about to just be swimming in money on the way back home after the game?
So here's a couple of ways to look at that, because I don't disagree with you, but Penn State, you have to look at what they do inside of the red zone, and that's go to the tight ends. That's a go to Katron Allen, Nicholas Singleton. And the guys who are currently calling plays are the tight ends coach and the running backs coach. The wide receivers have essentially been fizzled out of the offense. However, I do like the matchup. I try to look for the waves, if you will. You buy low, you sell high in this case, Matt, right? The wide receivers, because they've been dunked on, they've been slandered, they've been everything. So much trash has been talked about them, how they ruined this season. Michigan State's cornerbacks, I think, are beneath Penn State's wide receivers. Keandre Lambert-Smith can't contend with the guys at Ohio State and Michigan, but he's good against Indiana, West Virginia, Michigan State in this case. Dante Cephas, same thing. Lit up the stat sheet against Maryland, had 2 touchdowns. But Drew Aller, since his throwing shoulder probably isn't 100%, The tight ends in short range, Theo Johnson has 5 touchdowns. Tyler Warren has 6 touchdowns. And that's the thing. Penn State's got 2 of them. If it was just Theo Johnson running around, is it a lock? Maybe, maybe not. Theo Johnson, this is also his last regular season game. Like you said, the area that he's playing in, he's returning to not necessarily his hometown, but close enough, right?
Right.
But I think this is Penn State understands the situation that it's in. Would I say anytime touchdown? Yeah, because I think Penn State could score 5 or 6 touchdowns in this game. So one of them's got to go to him since he's the leading one of the leading touchdown receivers.
I don't hate the receiver thing too, because that's, been a big storyline. Okay. There's 100 big storylines over here this season so far for Michigan State. But one of them, unfortunately, lately is just how many injuries this team has, gone through for what seems like the 15th year in a row.
Yeah.
We're scraping the bottom of the barrel for who we're playing at cornerback. I don't mean to be incredibly disrespectful to the kids trying their best out there, but we got like true freshman Chance Rucker, who has been good for a true freshman. Like, that's a kid that I hope sticks around here in an offseason that could be a little bit of a carousel here. I would love him to come back, but still at the end of the day, true freshman. And then Chester Kimbrough on the other side. He's been here for quite some time, and it's been a lot of the same is how I'll put it like that. So because there's just injuries everywhere else, even on defense too. Look, we just talked about the receivers, how they could be a factor here. Your running backs could be a factor too, because on the defensive line last week, we had to play Ben Nelson. Now, of course, Penn State fans have no idea who I'm talking about. By and large, most MSU fans have no idea who I'm talking about. Ben Nelson is a former walk-on offensive lineman who had to play defensive line last week because everyone else is dying on the field every single week. So, look, it was incredible what Michigan State did last week. I get Indiana's terrible, but they took the road with less than 50 scholarship players, and they still won, and they lost even more during that game as well. So, yeah, I know I'm falling in love with the tight end here, but yeah, there is reason to think that, like, okay, the running backs can do damage, and the receivers can, just because of just the depth is. It's not even dwindling; it's dwindled over here. It's great. You can tell I'm just very optimistic about Friday.
I think Penn State, just because of the situation, the formula was to use an elite defense to set up the offense with short fields and just allow them to continue to churn the game, grind the opponent to a stop, and just basically run them out of the stadium. And it was working up until Ohio State and Michigan. So Penn State's formula is going to work here again. My score prediction, I think 38-10 is appropriate here. I think there's a field goal in there somewhere. Penn State might even score 6 touchdowns, so maybe, but I'll go officially with 38-10, and then I think Penn State will pull some of its starters, and Michigan State will be able to score a last-second touchdown there. So that's a spread, and that's a cover for Penn State spread and the total going over as well.
I'm not too far off from you. I was thinking a sweet 35-13 Penn State victory. We're in a dome. We got a great field goal kicker over here. He might get an attempt from 70 yards. There's nothing this coaching staff loves more than trotting Jonathan Kim out there for a smooth 58-yarder in a road game. So if they're doing that on the road at Kinnick, for example, what's going to stop them from lining up from 65 yards out in Ford Field, just to give the fans something to cheer about? But yeah, I think it'll be 2 field goals, and then, like you're saying, the famous touchdown against the secondary or the third stringers, whatever it is. But hey, something to put a smile on State fans' face before they drive back home from Ford Field.
Since this game is going to be lopsided and that we agree with, what is the optimistic look for Michigan State at this point? Because I see the Mel Tucker stuff. I see guys jumping in the transfer portal already, guys decommitting who were committed. What is the direction that Sparty's trying to go in with the next head coach? Is it Lance Leopold? Who is it?
I would say right now, and just for full transparency, it is Tuesday, 2:59 p.m. Anything can change by the time anyone listens to this. But Mike Elko at Duke and then Jonathan Smith at Oregon State are 1A and 1B right now, and also looking like the most likely 2 candidates. Now, time maybe of the essence. I'm not sure if the longer this drags out, the less likely them come here. That's nice grammar, Jesus. They come here. But Lance Leipold, maybe the 3rd guy, and then Jed Fish over Arizona is number 4 as well. But again, let's say we take our time here. UCLA opens up. Okay, that might be a desirable for Jonathan Smith or Jed Fish. They're both from that area. Or let's say that, Florida's open. Well, my name is Mike Elko, and I'm going to go interview down there. I would like this to be wrapped up by this weekend. Is that realistic? we'll see. But excuse me for being a little antsy after like 8 weeks of not having a head coach here. Like I'm ready to get this thing wrapped up here. So that's our light at the end of the tunnel, Zach. It's just, hey, this coaching search might end. And I got to say, too, I need to include this. This is just my opinion. A little divided here in Michigan State country. I like that list of 4 names that we're down to. Like, I think it's a good final 4. Yeah. I know it's not Urban Meyer. A lot of people over in our neck of the woods are like either Urban or bust. It must be Urban Meyer. But like that, let's just act like he didn't exist. Like these 4 coaches in this market, that's as good as you can do, probably. I mean, truthfully, unless you're going to throw Dan Lanning $15 million a year. Even then, Oregon might match. So
Michigan State in that same money revenue stat sheet that I looked at. This is from the summer of 2023. Ohio State's number 1, Michigan's number 4. Michigan State is number 12. So Michigan State isn't broke, or they're not committed to athletics. Look what they gave Mel Tucker. So if you're going to commit to Mel Tucker like that, who had one good season at Colorado, imagine what they might throw at a Mike Elko or any. I think Mike Elko's a home run hire for Michigan State. Urban Meyer, I think, is NIL, transfer portal. There's a reason he went to the NFL. He don't want to deal with that. He does not want to deal with that. And so don't bring somebody in that is not set up for success. Guys, like any of those guys that you named are fully entrenched in college football right now and can handle this landscape.
Sure hope so. So but with all the fires going on around us, hey, there's our fire hydrant right there. Mr. Mike Elko or Jonathan Smith or any of the guys I just named. So it's again, you ask me how I'm doing like the previous 8 weeks. I'm not doing well at all, Zach, but hey, it is the season of hope, the season of Thanksgiving. And I'm just thankful that we are going to start a new chapter here at Michigan State here in a little bit. So that's been nice. That's been nice. And that Friday's game is inside. I'm actually very, very excited about that.
I like that it's on Black Friday. I actually in prime time. I'm excited for after the NFL game too. You know, the Jets and the Dolphins. Good setup.
No, it's awesome. Oh, okay. Me and the listeners, we almost came to fist over this whole thing when it first broke. I'm very pro this game. There's a lot of people very anti this game that it should be in Spartan Stadium, but hey, catch me at a 68-degree dome with no wind or rain or sleet and some beer that I could buy with no super long concession lines. Like Friday's gonna be as enjoyable of a day as it can be watching a beatdown. I gotta say, that's where I'm at right now.
It's the optimistic side, and that's you say you're down in the dumps, so you seem to be making the most of it, Matt.
We're thriving. Yeah, we turn it around right here on this. Well, gang, this is a hoot and a half. I'm Matt Sheehan over Locked on Spartans over there. Zach Seyko locked on Nittany Lions. And no matter what you do, hey, enjoy your Thanksgiving. Have a great holiday. Stay safe out there and go green. And hey, I'll give you guys a we are as well. Let's go.
Appreciate it. Always fun to do these shows with you, Matt.